What's going on, everybody? Internet peoples, nomads, Major Nomad here. Early this morning, I've been told through the online and social media that they have brought back the Direwolves and progressed more in recent technology to do this. And as a lover and enthusiast of technology, because, I love technology, makes life in the world easy. It's just when it's a pain in the butt that it's a problem when you have to do stuff to fix little issues. But besides the point, I was excited. I've been talking about this mostly offline, but I'm a big fan of resurrecting a lot of prehistoric creatures that unfortunately lost it due to the environments of what happened in recent times, and especially the non-regulation of hunting. Of course, I'm pro hunting and all of that, and I like to game, and even though I haven't been doing much hunting myself, I get the things by that by not regulating it to a degree, because if you don't regulate it too much, that's how certain animals go extinct, and I'm all for a good middle ground, so everybody can be happy and everybody wins, and there's no extinction of very cool animals like the direwolf and that, so to speak, and amongst others. But luckily with technology, there could be a happy medium to resurrect the ones who are lost. But let's get into this. I'm very hyped about that, and I'm very excited to see what they come up with this. I just only heard little tidbits this morning, and I got to give credits to the people who did this. This apparently happened months ago, and they've been pretty quiet about it until, which is understandable, because they wanted to make sure it was a success, and they done it really well too, because so far, apparently it's been pretty successful. Let's look into this. They look pretty beautiful too, look at that, aww. So majestic.
You must have seen these direwolves running around if you've watched the hit HBO series Game of Thrones.
Fun fact, I know I'm gonna get a little bit roasted for that, but I have never seen Game of Thrones or teased about it. Like, I've never seen Game of Thrones, watched the episode or really seen clips or so on the social media, but I just didn't really see it much as my show. Like, I liked the show Vikings and whatnot, even though they have a lot of similarities, a lot of these medieval type of shows. It didn't really struck me as interest. I know it has a big following and it tends to be good. I might change my mind and check it out, but besides the point, let's get into this. But I like how they show these even in their show. That's cool.
These species of wolves existed over 12,500 years ago and were extinct until October of...
I thought it was like 15 years ago. That's interesting. Learn something new every day.
2024. Well, somewhat similar. In a historic announcement, biotech company Colossal Biosciences, based in Dallas,
Dallas, Texas, of all places. I heard they've been making moves, but I'm gonna be quiet and let this play out and comment a little less afterwards.
Wolf pups,
this is rather
Remus,
interesting.
Romulus, and Khaleesi, calling it the world's first successfully de-extinct animal.
So de-extinction to us is, recreating these phenotypes. So a gray wolf is the closest living relative of a direwolf. They're genetically really similar, 99.5% similar. And phenotypically, their morphology is also similar, only direwolves are larger, more muscular, and have these light-colored coats and other things that we can see from the fossils. And so we targeted DNA sequence variants that we believe lead to those traits. And then we edited gray wolf cells to contain those direwolf DNA variants. And then we cloned those cells and created our direwolves.
Scientists at Colossal used ancient DNA pulled from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull.
Only a skull and a tooth. My goodness, the wonders of technology. I bet you the machines they were using to do all this successfully had to cost at least $1 million or more for even just one machine to do this.
To reconstruct the genetic blueprint of Inosian dirus, the dire wolf. Then, Through a combination of gene editing, cloning, and surrogacy using domestic dogs, they brought the animal back to life. Using gene editing on a gray wolf's genome, they made 20 changes in 14 genes, including 15 extinct
Oh my
variants.
goodness.
Edited cells were tested and cloned into donor egg cells. After embryo transfer and surrogacy, they successfully birthed a dire wolf. A new hybrid species was born, 99.9% gray wolf, yet carrying the defining traits of its extinct cousin, broader heads, thick white fur, and stronger jaws.
You take an egg cell that is ripe, ready to be fertilized, but not yet fertilized. It's similar to when a woman is going to go through IVF, where you take hormones and it makes a lot of egg cells ripen at the same time, and then you take them and then you fertilize them in addition in a lab. But we're not fertilizing them. Instead, we're taking those ripe egg cells and we're taking out the genetic material that would have come from mom, and we're putting in a whole cell that has mom's and dad's genetic material. That's our edited cell, right?
Interesting.
2 males were born in October.
Sounds very
2024.
complicated, but I'm sure those machines and tools used definitely do it all the work to make it easy and whatnot. But that sounds like a lot of like people who do coding for video games. I think if you take it in that perspective, you could kind of understand what she means. I am going to keep it a stack. I know very little and have not coded myself, but it can be a very complicated thing.
A female followed.
I know
in
this is
January
way different, but
2025. They now roam a 2,000-acre high-security sanctuary, protected by zoo-grade fencing, drones, and 24/7 monitoring. Certified by the American Humane Society and registered with the USDA, the facility is designed to ensure both safety and animal welfare. Colossal has long been known for its bold ambition to revive the woolly mammoth, the dodo, and the Tasmanian tiger. But the Direwolf project had remained secret until now.
And then the hand raising was really great. You know, we sort of looked at what we do with gray wolves. We beefed up the caloric values of the formula, and we began putting them onto a puppy milk replacer or formula. And then quickly, by 8 weeks, they were weaning and being fed whole solid foods. So they're getting everything from ground meats like beef and deer and horse meats all the way to now they're actually experiencing whole prey. So they get to sort of chew on meat and bones and all of that.
With more than
Wow.
$435 million raised, the company said
400. I wouldn't expect anything less surprising. I thought it would be a little more, to be honest, but that's still a whole lot of money. Genetically cloning and bringing animals back from the dead can be rather expensive, I see.
says this is just the beginning. Their gene editing process made 20 targeted changes across 14 genes, using CRISPR technology to engineer gray wolf cells and create viable embryos. The breakthrough also helped create litters of critically endangered red wolves, using less invasive
Red
cloning
wolves too? Wow, not only the dire wolf, but the red wolf. That is so amazing. And like I said about the thing too, I know they didn't just go on, what do you call it, those dono sites like GoFundMe or so to raise that kind of money. I don't know how they went about it, but whatever they did, hats off to them to make this thing kickstart. And it was only done within a few months. Who knows, it was probably a little longer, but even then, very impressive.
That Colossal
Especially
says could be
working living ones that so far are well and not sick or have any weird health issues or deformities or so. Very impressive.
key to conserving modern species on the brink.
And then, you know,
Indeed,
as they
it
develop,
could.
they start showing you hunting instincts and stalking instincts. What they will probably never learn is, right, what is the finishing move of how you kill a giant elk or a big deer, something like that. Those are sort of those finely tuned social learning opportunities that these guys won't have.
But as with all pioneering science, questions loom. Critics argue the money could be better spent protecting animals alive today. Others worry about the ethics of using surrogate animals for experiments. Still, Colossal maintains.
Okay, I want to comment on that too. It's funny, people that isn't in charge of any of that and who aren't working on that themselves tell them what to do with their own money. Kind of like telling a multi-billionaire, which is agree, disagree or not, is not your money, telling them, oh, you should buy or fix up this neighborhood because even though you're not part of government or so, you should take that money and do it anyway, which is all fine and nice. But hey, what about you? Why don't you and other people team up to do that? And I'm all for all these things. I'm very pro reconstructing and recreating and rebirthing these animals so we can have that going back into nature. Because as well, consider this, some extinct animals like the direwolf, etc., played pretty huge roles, is what the experts say, in their ecosystem. Reintroducing them to nature responsibly could help rebalance environments that have been thrown off by their loss. Now, that's something very good to consider, my 2 cents. Also, let's be real, keep it a stack. Bringing back a species like the direwolf isn't just about the past, it's about the future. And it's quite amazing the science and technology, especially in the future, can help develop in the process, can help protect endangered animals today, like improving cloning and gene preservation for species that are still with us and is hanging on by a thread. Is not an either or situation, it's both, and experts would agree. And the main argument is, which is of course understandable, but to a degree, using surrogates, of course, isn't typically ideal, but is also how we advance medicine and architecture for decades, even way before the science experiment and or cloning, etc., has begun, not only from the dire wolves, with, good middle ground, strict ethical guidelines. These experiments, if you really think about it, can lead to more breakthroughs that benefit living species, of course, in the human realm and more in the animal realm as well, if you want to call it that. Not just the more extinct ones like the dire wolf or the woolly mammoth. Something to really think about. Another really good point, too, to consider: reviving a dire wolf grabs headlines. Let's keep it a stack. That hype can bring attention and funding to conservation overall, including other endangered animals that are still among us today that isn't fully extinct, if you really consider that as well, that they'll normally get the spotlight. Another thing to really consider, just saying. And to really hit this at home too, the last point I wanted to make is using a surrogate isn't really new. We've been already doing it for farming and medicine. If done right, reasonably, responsibly, and the good middle ground, it's a small sacrifice that can lead to many other huge benefits for biodiversity. But anyways, that was my 2 cents. Hopefully you enjoyed this little thing. I wanted to cover this more because, I'm a fan of all these interesting things, technology, robots, and whatnot. And I think we need to show the positive more than the negatives, because a lot of people tend to show more negative than positive, which understandable because it's all new technology. If not in the right hands and whatnot, can be abused and overused. But luckily, in this country, let's keep it a stack compared to others, has more things protecting against overuse of experiments on like other animals or so. We have all of these other groups that can protect against that is against unethical ways or whatnot. So another thing to keep in mind, and this is, like I said before, would grab headlines and be a good win to show off to other countries that, hey, look what we're doing. We're bringing back that animals with this technology. We're really advanced. We're leading. It's beneficial for a lot of people, the country in general, science, animals, us as living beings, having technology and health and medicine, etc., improve. I see more upsides than downsides. That's how I see it. I understand the downsides, of course, too, but really consider a lot of the upsides and do your research before you give a big critical thing. Oh, they had their time, all of this. These certain animals shouldn't be brought back because they could easily take out and unalive a big majority of these animals, which, understandable, but if done right, consider if done right and they monitor it, I don't think it would be that concerning or that exaggerated. So, I just wanted to cover that. Hopefully you enjoyed my take on this. Like I said, I really enjoyed this, and I definitely want to look into more of the breakthroughs that come out among other content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed. Remember, consider what I told you. Peace.